All right, in this video we are going to talk about the tools that we're going to need to use in this project in Adobe Illustrator. And it's pretty simple, really. We're going to be, of course, using, shape tools and the fill tools that we've been using, but the only other tools we'll be using will be the type tool and possibly the transform tool. And that's pretty much it in the tools department. And then we're going to be dealing with a couple of other window options. For example, in window, if we scroll down to type and we see character, we'll be able to get the character menu out. And you'll notice that I have, by default, you basically have a few of these menu items that are already in these panels here. And you could take these windows that you open and you could just drag them into this panel, and then all of your windows will be in your panels, and you can see that I've got them organized. So I have all my color stuff up in the top. Then I've got a color mixer, the color themes, which we talked about in Project 4. And then I've got all my text stuff here. So I've got I have my character, my paragraph, my open type, and my glyphs. Okay, so those are all tools that I use together. And then I have styles together, and then I have my artboards and my layers together. And then I've got strokes and pathfinders and transform and align. So you can see that I've got a bit of a strategy in terms of how I like to keep my windows available. That way I don't have to keep going up into window, click, or having a bunch of stuff floating around. So it's a good idea to set your workspace up like this so that it's easy to manage. So primarily we're going to be dealing with the character window and the type tool, and then we're going to use a few other tools to manipulate those text elements. So the type tool is essentially, you can click and it'll add a block of text, or alternatively you can click and drag. You can click and, okay, hold on a second, there we go, we'll get rid of that. You can click and drag a box and it'll add a whole bunch of text, some nonsense type. So whatever you had selected the last time is what's going to come up in the window. So I was fussing around with some typefaces and I picked this really horrible, noteworthy typeface. But anyway, you get the idea. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our list of phrases, right? And of which on the website you'll see we've got some suggested emotive headlines, and those are in the feature discussions. And then you get there, and then you have all of these possibilities. So again, there's hundreds of options here. I put a bunch up there, and then students have been adding them over the course of this last several years. And so these are a group of them that, are there. And if you want to add your own, as I said, that is an option for you. I'm going to just select instant gratification. It's kind of an easy, simple thing to deal with. And then I'm going to use my text tool, and I'm going to just click once, and I'm going to type in the word instant, right? And then when you're in the text tool, you have to go out in order to select something else. But if you hit the escape key, it automatically jumps you out, and then you can move it or scale it or whatever you want to do to it. And that eliminates one quick step. So just remember that if you're in the text tool, you can just click the escape button and you're out. Okay, so I'm going to just option drag this just like any other shape we've been working with, and I'm going to just type in gratification. Okay, so we can see that. Again, I hit the escape. That gets me right out. Now I can move it. So in the character box is where we play around with typefaces, font choices, the sizes, scaling, and all kinds of stuff. Okay, so first thing we might want to do is say, well, instant, what typeface is that? It's right now it's in Noteworthy. So if we click on that, what's neat is if you select the typeface using the selector tool right there, then when you click on the typefaces, it will change and show you exactly what that's going to look like with any given typeface. So this is a kind of a cool kind of functionality there. Okay, so, and then, if you need to scroll up to get something else, you can. And so the key is to find typefaces that you like that are that say what you want the word to say. So, instant, what does that mean? It's got some importance. It has a little bit of impact to it, right? So you'd probably want to find a typeface that had a little bit more of a something a little bit more impactful, like maybe Papyrus. No, not Papyrus. How about Phosphate? How about Instant? And then gratification is more of an emotive term, right? It's like a feeling. So we might want to have something like gratification. And maybe we'll just use this because it sort of works. Okay, so then once you have a typeface, you'll notice that we also have styles, right? In this case here, we have a light and a bold. Some faces will have many. Some will have almost none. So the two that I picked happen to have none, or very, very few options. But you can always drag another option down and then explore a different option, right? So say we wanted to go with, I don't know, how about something like Giddy Up? How about Gill Sans? I love Gill Sans. And if you notice in Gill Sans, there are a lot of options, right? So the family has a lot of possibilities to it. So those give you some choices. And of course, the more space it takes up, the more space it takes up. So anyway, I'm going to just run with this. And then if you want to change the size, you simply click, and then there's some default sizes, 72, 60, 48, 36, and so on. These are kind of considered the standard type sizes, or you would call them font sizes, actually. and so they're multiples of 12 primarily. And so you could just pick a type size from there. Or if you want to adjust it slightly, you can use these up and down arrows to make it bigger or smaller, 1 point size at a time. You can also use the letter spacing tool, and letter spacing will change the space between each letter equally. So if you wanted to make that a little bit smaller, or again, you have a drop down that you could say, well, I really want to make it super tight, or I want to make it super loose. Okay, so those are some options for you in terms of just creating a different impact of the way that those letter forms work. Okay, so let's just make that a little bit bigger. Let's come up, let's make this quite a bit bigger. Let's select the whole deal and let's make it, if you want to change something, you can just type in a number, like say 120. Maybe too big, a little too big. How about 100? Okay, that might work. And then again, escape to get out, and then you can just, and if it's still too big, you can just, scooch it down a little bit to the point where you get it to the point where you're happy with it. And let's take a look at that. And then you could add color to it just like anything, right? So if you wanted gratification to be a different color, you simply double click on your color. You go find a color you think sounds like gratification, and you say, okay. And then you could play around with things like overlap and so on. But we also have some options here now where we can explore something like opacity. Okay, opacity is an option, and you can just simply, that's found up here. And this gives you, some things we can do, but for the time being, if you just click on the arrow and then you can adjust that, you can change the opacity. So that's a very quick, easy thing that you can do. So now let's double click on that, maybe make this red, really red. How about really red? There we go, really red. Okay, so then you've got, an option there, instant gratification, red and kind of a nice purple color. And then if you wanted to, say, rotate something, there's a couple of easy ways of handling that. There's the transform tool, and the transform tool you'll find right here. And that tool allows us to, once that object is selected, you can rotate it. You can, if it were a 3D object, you could actually skew it, but for now it's just simply a rotation tool, and it's also a scale tool. Okay, so we can make it narrower, skinnier, and scale it like so. So each one of these tools, works a little bit differently. Okay, and you can undo till you get to the point where you were at the very beginning if you'd like to do that. So those are essentially the tools that you'll need to get started with. There are, as I mentioned, I'm going to, in the advanced video, we'll talk a lot more about some of the other cool features that you can do, but these are the ones that will get you started. All right, so easy tools, have some fun, explore type, be creative.